Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Historical Graphical. Today, we are going to be talking about a really underrated illustrator that's been working around since the 80s. Now, that was a time when most artists, including graphic designers and illustrators, would normally have their chance to shine in the spotlight within areas that would be mostly related to pop culture, whether it be movie, posters, video game covers, and of course, magazines and comic books. People in this kind of genre of art would normally have their fair of the usual shtick, like superheroes or space traveling. But one artist beyond people like Jack Kirby or Stan Lee would really push the envelope of what they can bring to the pages. And his name is Richard Corben. In the early days, Richard Corben was born in Missouri and Sunflower, Kansas, where he worked for a U.S. Army Corps plant factory known as the Sunflower Ordnance Works, where they produced bombs used in World War II. In most of his free time, he would draw comics, including a series called Trail, the Family Dog, and traced imitations of a comic called Tarzan and Brothers of Spear. He sometimes liked to make little animations as well, using tiny wads of paper into moving flip books. Later on, he would actually attend the Kansas City Art Institute, where he developed his art skills by studying other forms of art, such as painting, and soon find and create his own vital, realistic style. Unfortunately, when he wanted to work on animation, the college he went to didn't really have any courses for it. But that didn't make him give up hope. He found his father's 8mm film camera and produced a 5-minute animated film about the legend of Hercules as his big senior project. After his graduation, he went to New York to search for a job in comics and animation, but he had a bit of a misconception of being a little shy and antisocial. But eventually, after working with his father in construction for some time, he found a small job as an artist, animator, cameraman at an industrial film company called Calvin Productions in his hometown. Later on, after 10 years of working there with the occasional marriage to boot his luck, it came soon when he started to focus more on his art career by writing and illustrating for the underground comics such as Grim Wit, Skull, Fever Dreams, Slow Death, Ralph, and even his own anthology series called Dantangar. Around the 1970s, he started illustrating for the Warner Publishing Company on their new series of noir horror comics known as Creepy, Eerie, and Vampirella. While a lot of his stories on the creepy part weren't exactly accepted, he was still able to find some of his other stories on the rest of the series, along with a comic called 1984 and Comics International. He even did some coloring for several episodes of the TV show Will Eisner's Spirit. Later, when at a science fiction convention, he met James Warren, who with the help of his editor, Bill Durbay, would relent from the studio to send Corben some comics to draw, which would make him feel more confident to quit the company to fulfill his comic career along with the responsibilities of being a father as well. During the 1975, when French magazine publisher Jean-Gerard Filteret and Jean-Pierre Donnet started to distribute Metal Roulette in, Corben sent out a few of his stories to them. He would have to stay in America to work where the magazine was called Heavy Metal. However, the past would later come back to him, as a good selection of his noir underground comic stories were collected as hard covers for the Richard Corben Funny Book from Kansas City's Nickelodeon Press. They were even spread around the European region with requests to reprint them to appear, while his stories for heavy metal continued in fame. One of his made-up characters, Den, was next printed for both the American underground comic Grimwit, Heavy Metal, and the French Metal Horrent. This series was about an underweight nerd who goes to the land of Neverwhere, a world of giving an homage to the horror aspect of Heilbin Age, Barsum, and H.P. Lovecraft. One thing to know about Corben's sense of atmosphere is that it involves a lot of vulgar language and raunchy taste. Even in this series, there's quite a bit of nude, muscular men going on very erotic adventures, being filled with violent dangers, ugly monsters, and sexually appealing women. Luckily enough, this series would become popular to gain a film adaptation directed by Gerald Potterton and starring actors such as John Candy. Sooner or later, Corben would collaborate with different writers such as Bruce Jones, Harlan Ellison, and Jeremy Brode, and Jan Stratton. From the start of 1984, Corben opened his own publishing print unit called the Fandango Press, where he would publish the Den Saga, Horror in the Dark, Rip in Time, and Son of Eden. But unfortunately, it didn't really support him enough to live. So he moved on to draw for American comics such as DC, Marvel, Dark Horse, etc. But much to his surprise, some have accused Corben's art as pornography. However, he disagreed with them, saying that they were sensual. This definitely wasn't good for his image. And to make it worse, when he was doing an interview with heavy metal editor Brad Balfour, where he said that he felt portrayed as a petty, childish, borderline psychotic oaf. He later went to write a letter in Quip that was announced to the public in the September 1981 issue. Despite he never exactly did much of his own stuff, rather became dependent on other things such as Marvel, DC, and other kinds of collaborations that not many people really know him for. Regardless to all the controversy that's been going on in his life, especially what I just mentioned before, he was still able to maintain his skills by taking a few classes and making some small bits of animation on his official website or his Facebook page. But unfortunately, after 56 years of marriage to Donya Corben and filled with loving care of his few children, he tragically died soon at the age of 80 on December 2nd, 2020, due to heart surgery.